All right, today we are diving into one of the most surprising and frankly shocking market stories of the year, the absolutely explosive surge in the price of silver. It's a wild story, one that involves high-tech futures, dramatic historical collapses, and really a deep question about the stability of our entire financial system.
So let's just jump right in. For the first time in, well, modern history, something that felt like a fundamental law of commodities has been completely turned on its head. The price of silver has actually surpassed the price of crude oil. For decades, oil was always more valuable. It wasn't even a question. But now, the tables have completely, totally turned.
And we're not talking about a small change here. This rally has been incredibly fast. In 2025 alone, silver's price has just skyrocketed by over 100%. The sheer speed and scale of this move has left analysts just scrambling for answers.
And that really brings us to the big question we're digging into today. What on earth is going on? Is it some kind of bubble? Is it a sign of a new industrial revolution? Or is it something else entirely? To figure it out, we really need to look at two powerful and kind of competing forces.
Okay, so the first theory, and it's a pretty logical one, comes from a major analysis by Goldman Sachs. They argue that the key to this entire puzzle is buried in the massive industrial and economic shifts happening right now, inside of China. You know, this slide really gets at a fundamental change in what silver even is anymore. We used to think of it for things like jewelry, maybe old-school photography, but today, its main value is as a critical, absolutely irreplaceable component in high-tech manufacturing. And China is right at the heart of this new demand. The country's massive push into green energy and advanced tech means they are just consuming silver at an incredible rate for solar panels, for advanced AI memory chips, and for their booming market for new energy vehicles. It's basically become the raw material of the future.
At the exact same time, China's policies are crushing the demand for oil. They've got these aggressive carbon reduction goals, they're predicting peak oil usage by 2027, and get this, sales of electric vehicles are now outpacing regular cars. So the world's second biggest oil consumer is using less and less of it, and that pushes global prices down. That dual effect, that's what explains that historic price flip we saw a minute ago.
But here's the thing. This clean, logical, industrial story, it's not the whole picture, not even close. To really get what's happening, we have to look at silver's wild and often dangerous history of boom and bust.
This quote just perfectly captures the feeling of unease from a lot of longtime market watchers. They've seen this movie before, and they know it can have a really dramatic ending.
And there is no better example of this than the infamous story of the Hunt brothers. Back in the 1970s, these two incredibly wealthy oil heirs decided they were going to use their family fortune to try and corner the entire global silver market.
When they kicked this whole thing off, silver was trading at just $1.50 an ounce. So they started buying up everything: physical silver, futures contracts, which are basically just bets on the future price, anything they could possibly get their hands on.
And their actions created this massive, insane bubble, driving the price all the way up to an astonishing $50 an ounce. The spike caused chaos everywhere. Industrial supplies just dried up, and thefts of silver items went through the roof.
Well, eventually the regulators and the government stepped in. They changed the rules on borrowing money to buy commodities, and the bubble burst spectacularly. The price just crashed from $50 all the way back down to $10, turning the brothers' billions in paper profits into billions in actual debt.
So you see, this pattern of extreme volatility, it isn't new. We saw it in 1980 with the Hunt brothers collapse. We saw it again after the 2009 financial crisis, when fears about money printing sent silver soaring before it crashed again. And that brings us to today's rally.
This whole history of volatility points to a second, much deeper force that's driving prices today. And this one has a lot less to do with solar panels and a lot more to do with a profound sense of fear and distrust in our traditional financial systems.
This quote from the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad just nails the core idea. He argues that when you see precious metals like gold and silver soar, it's not just another investment trend. No, it's the market basically screaming that it doesn't trust government-issued money, what's known as fiat currency.
This is what's known as a safe haven asset. The idea is simple. When investors get scared that their dollars or euros or yen might lose value because of economic instability or government policy, they run to assets that have a finite supply and a long history of holding their value.
So why all the distrust right now? Well, it's a whole mix of things.
There are these lingering fears of inflation, deep skepticism about massive government debt, and a general distrust of central banks just printing more money whenever there's a crisis. People are looking for refuge in something tangible, something a government can't just create out of thin air.
So where does all of this leave us? We've got these two incredibly powerful narratives, both pushing the price of silver higher, but for completely different reasons.
See, on one hand, you have the logical, future-facing demand from the high-tech world. This creates a solid price floor that just wasn't there in past rallies. But on the other hand, you have this more emotional, almost backward-looking demand from investors who are terrified of another financial crisis. That provides the explosive fuel. In fact, that industrial demand makes silver feel like a safer bet, which then encourages the safe haven investors even more, creating this powerful feedback loop.
And this really brings us to our final question. Is this historic rally a good thing? A bullish sign of technological progress and a green energy revolution? Or is it a canary in the coal mine, a warning signal of deep-seated instability in our global financial system? The answer is probably both. And that duality is what makes the story of silver so compelling and so incredibly important to watch right now.